kind of thing. I mean, Woody Harrelson, McConaughey, Mick C. All right, so John, you have a very solid far and away Backdraft, Frost Nixon, Parenthood, Ed TV. I have Willow, Apollo 13, Splash, Rush, and A Beautiful Mind. And if you want to vote on these, head to Movies, Films, and Flicks Facebook, where we run weird polls and weird tournaments and just have some fun. We're not too annoying on there. We don't post that much. It's a positive experience on there. I think you'll like the crowd. So if you haven't followed Movies, Films, and Facebook, Movies, Films, and Flicks on Facebook, do that now. That's tough to say, John. Movies, Films, and Flicks Facebook.
By the way, I'm very happy that well, I know I wouldn't, but that we didn't pick any of the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons.
Oh, those are so bad.
Good.
Do you like any of them?
I'm glad you think that too. I mean, Tom Cruise does well with his. What am I saying? Tom Hanks. Tom Cruise. They feel like bad Tom Cruise movies. Tom Hanks does really well with his role, especially in the first movie. I only made it through halfway of the second one. I can't do these things. Tom Hanks is good at capturing the urgency, but for some reason I could never swallow the pill to accept this plot. And I watched some crazy stuff.
These movies, I hate saying it because I like Ron Howard a lot as a director, but they're not good. Just as far as movies, I don't think they're very good. I don't think Ron Howard likes the material. And I don't know, maybe if they gave him $35 million, it would have been better.
It's occurring to me, neither of us picked The Paper. Maybe if we had 7 choices or 6 choices, one of us would have picked The Paper.
You know what? I remember The Paper, and I don't think I ever watched The Paper.
I think that was Glenn Close and Keaton and Uncle Eddie, Randy Quaid.
Oh, I saw The Paper. I
think he was in it.
I saw the box everywhere I went. I just never picked it up. The Paper, because I gotta know. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Randy Quaid and Duvall. Oh, Robert Duvall. Marissa Tomei. That's a great cast.
Yeah.
Randy Quaid, dude. No, but so what else haven't we covered in this film? Just kind of getting back into it with Rush. I mean, we've talked about.
So you brought up, by the way, the one thing, and this, by the way, was I figured it was the one thing that might not be true when I was watching it before this podcast was the beating up of the reporter. Or let me rephrase. I thought that if James Hunt had beaten up that reporter, it at least wouldn't be verified or something, or it would be dubious, or maybe it never would have been revealed or something. So that was the one thing I kind of questioned. But so let's talk about the accident that got Niki in the hospital, and then his first interview, and just all the things related to his injury, because that is touchy stuff that I think that, they're dropping on the audience, and it's a very big dynamic shift. And I think they did a great job with it, though.
I read something really interesting. We were talking about the tires earlier. That track was a problem because it was wet and dry at the same time. So there were dry parts and there were wet parts. So it was tough to pick which tire to use.
Right.
Which I find these machines are millions upon millions of dollars. And it's just interesting hearing the tire choice make such a difference between that. And, you want to hear something interesting? That chase, that wipeout, an 8-year-old kid filmed it. So they recreated the footage that an 8-year-old shot during that accident in 1976.
That's interesting.
Yeah, an 8-year-old had a camera. And then the DP was like, the 8-year-old really had a good sense of framing. So I thought, but I mean, just, you know what I love the most about that scene is the drivers got Niki out. And he was in there for a minute with all that stuff. But I love that the drivers did it. Like, that shows the camaraderie.
That was intense, too, though, right? So that scene, like, a driver goes and he's trying to help. And even though he's, like, running not just into the burning building, if you will, he's running into the fire. He is reaching into the fire to try and help Lauda with his seatbelt buckle that was like jammed or something, or who knows, right? So you are reaching into the fire, and at some point it's too much for him and he has to back up. And I totally understand that, right? I totally get it. But like, Lauda is there watching him then back up.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like, holy crap. Like, I'm watching someone burn, and it made me think of that scene in Final Destination 2 opening scene when the guy is trapped in his burning car. And that was like the one scene where I truly, like my gorehoundness went out the window and I had a little sympathy for the character who was suffering. And I'm like, whoa. So like him just sitting there burning in a car, like, we say we can't imagine things, couldn't even come close to imagining.
Part of you is thankful that this man risked his life to get into a fire to get you out, and then you're like, wait, where are you going? But then you're also like, well, he did go into the fire to do that for me. But after a minute, they got him out. I mean, so even though people were afraid of him or didn't like him, that touched me that the drivers look out for each other like that.
But I feel like too, though, yes, that, but I think that they all know the risks that they're taking.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I could hate you. I could hate you and not even respect you, but holy shit, like get him out. Like, you just stop my race is done. We got to get him out of there. Like that's, if you're in a situation like that, I feel it's almost like, not that I have any experience with it, but I feel like it's almost like being a soldier overseas in a war zone. You might hate this dude in the bunk who's been sleeping across from you all this time, but he just got shot in the ass, and you're going to throw him over your shoulder Forrest Gump style and run him out of there. Right? Like, you're going to risk yourself and do that. But no, that was an intense scene. And the other thing about that scene, I was talking earlier about the risks all these drivers take. So Lauda's car wipes out and catches on fire. And then right after that, another car careens into it, right? So it's like, you can be doing everything perfect, but if someone has an accident in front of you, you just ended up in the danger zone. I mean, just so risky. But yeah, that scene was brutal, and Hunt looked rattled.
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, they had that antagonistic but also a slight brother type vibe, or sibling vibe, or like brothers and siblings are the same thing. Close friend vibe. Yeah, no, like Hemsworth pulled that off really well. And then I liked when they pulled him out, they said that Lauda was talking to him. And Lauda asked one of the guys who got him out of the car, like, how's my face? And the guy's like, yeah, you look great. That's what the guy said to him on there. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But I also like the speech. Oh, no, we're jumping ahead. But the recovery, just to watch him put that helmet back on.
Like the helmet when they're vacuuming the lungs and you see him, it looks like they're intubating him, right? While he's conscious. And they even said before, because I don't have a mindset of what this is, they're like, it's going to bruise your lungs up pretty bad. I'm like, whoa, bruise your lungs up? So they're like pulling all this like scar tissue that's blackened with like soot out of him. And the doctor's like, okay, we'll try again in a couple days. And he's like, do it again.
Yeah.
Like because he's got the race on in the background and he's literally physically suffering. And his eyes are just like angling over to see that TV, like Hunt wins again. Like, that was cool.
He's just in the hospital bed annoyed.
I do say there was a part that had me a little emotionally conflicted, although I understand the mindset when he's trying to put the helmet on.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife comes in and he says, like, if you love me, you won't say anything. And when he said that, though, I'm like, I understand, but that is not fair to say to someone you love.
I did not like that line either.
Right, because I'm like, that is not fair. What does that do to that poor woman, right? Like,
he kind of took, and it's interesting, I guess one of the complaints too is, Olivia Wilde, her character had kind of not much of a role in his life, but when she was a big presence in the marketing, she was basically a nothing character for this. And then you had his wife, Niki Lauda's wife. I mean, in the beginning, she seems to be this really cool, free-spirited, lively woman, who gets what she wants. And then it just becomes Lauda going, you're going to hate me and I'm going to do this. So just deal with it. I guess that's kind of one of the treatments that wasn't too great. And they stayed together for a while, but they got divorced in 91.
That's a long time then. Yeah.
And then he remarried and got twins, and then he died at 70.
Yeah, that whole recovery, though, and that's... I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, no, but that accident, that really, that damaged him for the rest of his life with his lungs. Like, he obviously survived, and he won another championship after that. So he won a total of 3. Hunt only won 1 F1 championship, so he still was able to race. But, yeah, he had problems with his internal organs for the rest of his life.
God, I couldn't imagine.
And he also started an airline called Lauda Air.
As in a lot of air, because you're high? A lot of air.
Lauda Air. Lot of mercy. Yeah, so but yeah, I mean, that was a rough scene. But you're right about that line. I don't know. That seemed like a very...
That seemed cliche.
Better than that, right? Yeah.
It almost seemed cliche, and it didn't seem fair either. Yeah, I didn't... but I get it. I do get it. I can see that guy saying that to her in that situation. I can see it. But that doesn't mean that I want to see it in the movie.
I guess it could have been more eloquently handled, because that kind of felt like a sledgehammer to crack a nut when he said that to her. He could have they could have had a wordless scene, or he could have looked at her with a sense of, I know this is insane. Does that make
just
sense?
Just like a look, like I need this, or it's like I need you, but I need this too. I don't know, something, I don't know. But yes, I'm totally with you. We're just word vomiting, trying to find the alternative. But I mean, maybe there's not a good alternative. That's such a tough scene anyway, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes. And then we do roll into what you wanted to get to, though. Like, he's going to show up to the race for the next race, and Hunt sees him.
Yeah, I love that discussion that they have. I like that he's like, I was chasing him like an asshole. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
In the beginning of the film?
Yeah.
And then he's like, it partly was your fault. But then we know the risk. Like, I like that discussion they had. That was a good scene. These two like each other, and you could tell it.
Well, and the thing is that even though that's a thing where, like, I don't think it's totally fair of Lauda to say that it was your fault, because Lauda could have not raced.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, but like you said, he brings it about, though. He says, it was, partly your fault. But if you were responsible for getting me, for that, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car. And even though some people might not like that risk that he's taking, the thing is that to Lauda, that is a huge thing. And he wanted to get back in that car. And maybe he's saying that had it not been for you, I might not have been able to get back in that car. Mm-hmm. That was his, you redrove me. You reignited me yet again. The way he's talking, it's not about revenge. It's just about his drive to be a great racer. He wants to be in that headline. He wants to prove himself.
And I think that really helps people as far as their legacies are concerned. So let's say Lauda wins 74, 75, 76, 77. Everyone, his legacy would be set. Everyone would know him as one of the greatest F1 racers ever. But this rivalry took them to the next level, these two guys. And I think that also added to his mystique as well. Would you say, just having a rivalry?
Dude, if Rocky never lost a fight, we wouldn't have sat through 8 Rocky movies.
Yes, right. I love, you have Bjorn Borg versus John McEnroe, which, that amazing rivalry. Then you have Federer, Nadal. I think that almost helps you when you have that person who's your equal. And that probably drives you further. Otherwise, you're just, did Jordan ever have during his NBA final runs, there was never a team or a player that, everyone, Isaiah was great, but Jordan was the player, I would say. So he never had anybody who was his equal, but his legacy's not in doubt. But there's no Jordan versus. There's no Magic versus Larry Bird. Does that make sense?
Right. It's always the Bulls versus. It's just that Jordan is leading the charge.
Yeah. And I love these documentaries about Magic Johnson versus Bird and all these different things. Well, I like that he said, you're responsible for getting me back in the car. And then I thought that was pretty interesting that when he comes back, he doesn't even finish the race. And what really happened is visor was fogging up. It was raining. It was dangerous. He's like, it's not worth it. So in the movie, they kind of make you believe that it was for his wife. And that partly was because of that. But yeah, he got out of his car, John. Ferrari owns this car. And he just leaves the race. And he caught a ton of crap for it. Like, people called him a coward. There's a lot of negative press, which is insane because he had just gotten back from a massive accident. And then he came back the next year and won it. But it's pretty interesting that people were calling him a coward for pulling out of the race.
He had a different view on life, I think, when he almost lost his.
It's kind of crazy. So he came back. He went Ferrari one more year, got in a big fight with Ferrari, came back and got a McLaren, which is what Hemsworth drove, and won it again in 74. That dude could drive, man. Jeez Louise. Maniac. You and I need to get some, Mini Coopers, John, and go down to St. Pete when they do their F3, their IndyCar racing, and just drive around that.
That sounds a little dangerous. I'm more the go-kart. Go-kart is my risk level, I think. What
if we got 20 go-karts and a bunch of MFF contributors and we did that race in St. Pete?
I think I'd lose, though, because mine, the undercarriage would be dragging on the ground because I'm heavy.
No one would be behind you. You could get out in front because the sparks would be flying out. I'm not that competitive.
I'd need a special one. I'd need a lift kit and bigger tires.
You'd have the Koopa car in Mario Kart.
That's right. That's what I'd need.
But no, and then that race goes through. He kind of pulls